What makes a narcissist? Well, let's start with what the experts have to say about it.
The Narc Ninja, bringing you the tools and tactics to heal and deal with users and abusers. And now the Narc Ninja himself, Christopher Fairchild.
Welcome back to the Narc Ninja channel and video 3 in this special 10-part limited series on recognizing and dealing with highly narcissistic people in our life, called the Narc Ninja 101 Survival Guide. But before we get started, I need to ask you to please subscribe to the Narc Ninja channel, like, comment, share, and hit that bell so you'll get notified when the next video is available. Okay, so let's get to it. There are officially 9 criteria in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, for narcissistic personality disorder, and only 5 of those criteria need to be met in order to be diagnosed with NPD. I'll just run through them quickly here. 1 has a grandiose sense of self-importance. For example, exaggerates achievements and talents, expects to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements. 2 is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. 3 believes that they are special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. 4 requires excessive admiration. 5 has a sense of entitlement, such as unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with their expectations. 6 is interpersonally exploitative, for instance, takes advantage of others to meet their own ends. 7, this is a biggie for me, lacks empathy and is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. 8 is often envious of others or believe that others are envious of them. And lastly, 9 shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Now, we may all have some of these traits and even use them in functional ways at different times. And I think we should all remember that we are not here to diagnose anyone, unless you happen to be a diagnostician. This is really about us getting an education in the manipulative tactics often used by predatory people and some things that may be at cause for their disordered and maladaptive behaviors. I think one of the trickiest things in all of this is that they're not all bad. And some of the funniest, most charming, most talented, and seemingly warm-hearted people can also be wolves in sheep clothing, or covert narcissists, for instance, studying their target and planning their next manipulative attack. They all trade in the exact same tactics, like they've all read the same book. Tactics such as something called cognitive dissonance. And a classic example of that might be if you hear an abuse victim say something like, sometimes they beat me, but I know they really love me. It's a crazy-making tactic that keeps the prey off balance at all times. And surprisingly, some of the same dysfunctional childhood experiences and early traumas that can be the genesis of codependency or possessing an unhealthy amount of empathy are often the same exact early experiences that can initiate and establish narcissistic tendencies or having an unhealthy lack of empathy. How these same early experiences can bring into being polar opposite disorders remains an area of some mystery in the world of behavioral science research. But it is believed that much of this has to do with the temperament a child happens to be born with. While both patterns are exact opposites, they do share some dysfunctional early experiences oftentimes, and some surprising tendencies in common. For instance, a narcissist and a codependent, let's say both adult children of alcoholics, may tend to think and process in very black and white, right and wrong sorts of ways, as if shades of gray don't even really exist. As we go through some of the ways a child can grow up to be highly narcissistic, just keep in mind that many of these same things can also make someone overly concerned or hyper-vigilant about the needs of others. In other words, codependent. As we move forward, please note, none of this excuses their cruelty or predation. It's only to give us some insight into how some of these maladaptive patterns are developed and formed. Narcissist is statistically indicated when other people in the family have it. In other words, it can be handed down. There's many things that could contribute early on. For one, if a child's self-expression is not received, not really responded to or explored, if a child's spontaneous expression is somehow humiliated, disregarded, or ignored, these early experiences can create what's called the original narcissistic wound. And that can be the onset of what might later develop into NPD or narcissistic personality disorder. Another common way is for a child to be idealized and excessively praised for attributes, abilities, talents, gifts, but particularly things that aren't earned through hard work, like good looks or innate talent. And if the child, which is often the case, has a narcissistic parent or parents, it will always be those traits that make the parents look good or give them those bragging rights. Any scenario where the child is only praised when being obedient or useful, and sadly, this includes the early sexualization of a child and child sexual abuse, often with that same terrible transactional component attached. And let's call all of this what it is. It's child abuse. When all the goodies, gifts, hugs, and acknowledgement to extra treats are all given in a transactional way and never just from a healthy place of unconditional parental love and care for a child, you can already start to see the emotional abuse and how it all gets handed down. Many of these kids are doomed to be future narcs from growing up in a world where all that ultimately matters is how everything looks from the outside and how that makes the parent look, or how the home and the lifestyle are perceived, where impression management is not just what it's all about, it's all it's about, always, all the time. And you know, the bonding and approval with a primary parent is so essential in our early development. And in these unhealthy cases, it becomes so vital to keep that abusive or emotionally unavailable parent approving of them. In fact, they may feel that their very survival depends on it. And sadly, in some of these cases, it does. So creating a sort of a perfect false self that is the more approved version is also often a part of the early childhoods of highly narcissistic people. And false or sub-selves can even be created and compartmentalized for different people and parts of their lives. And it all comes back, once again, to impression management, because it's all about how the outside is perceived, not how the inside feels. And in fact, some narcs can even have a feeling as if there is no true self and only the winning sub-self with nothing but emptiness on the inside is all that exists. And for me, when I think of it, having no sense of a true self or no empathy for my loved ones or the people around me sounds like the absolute loneliest and most hollow way to live. And I want you to know there is a healing power and a return to emotional neutrality for we survivors available through a clinical understanding about narcissism. And, you know, remember, understanding these things no way excuses their behavior. And I really want you to hear this. I don't mean ever for anyone to drop their healthy boundaries. Do not, for instance, break no contact, if that's where you're at, just because you now have some new insights into possible reasons for your abuser's behavior. Remember, abusers are the human equivalent to emotional poison. And I need to add here that there are also scores of kids who came from wonderfully loving families that still emerge as cruel and pathologically heartless and predatory. This is that part, according to the research data, that may simply go to a child's natural temperament. On some level, you know what? It doesn't even matter why they do what they do, so much as how to recognize an emotional vampire and successfully avoid them. Engaging is usually an unhealthy choice. And my advice is to retrain how you allow yourself to think about them. You may need to acknowledge on purpose that they have some wonderful qualities or benefits, They may be gorgeous. They may be funny, smart, great in bed. They may even be well off and could be able to open doors for your career. And that they are also abusive, exploitative, dismissive, manipulative, cunning, or controlling. Or maybe all of this at the same time. If any of this is sounding familiar, you might want to get over how cute they look when they make that face or say, I love you. The ultimate goal here is for you to heal to the point where you can realize how impersonal all the abuse really ever was. It never was about you. It was always about them and their near incurable character disorder. It never had anything to do with how amazingly lovable you really are, how beautiful your spirit is. You really aren't crazy. That was wrong. It was unfair. And I, for one, am so sorry that that happened to you. And I just want to arm you with a sort of roadmap back to your personal well-being, back to your authentic, healed, peaceful, happy self. And that's why I'm the Narc Ninja. Okay, so far in this series, we have learned some secrets abusers don't want you to ever know, what could be making you a narc magnet, and how some highly narcissistic people are created. But there is so much more coming up, especially about their tactics and how to recognize all those warning signs. And in the next video, we are going to start to learn some of my all-time favorite awesome Narc Ninja defense skills I'm calling communication self-defense. Now I need to ask you one more time to hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment below. I'm going to be reading some of those comments in upcoming videos. So, and any questions that you might have, subscribe, hit the bell, share, do all the YouTubey things. Thanks again for watching. I hope you found some of this helpful. And in the meantime, keep your glow on,